Hi, my name is Alejandro Rios of the Youth Advisory Board with the Children's Science Center Lab. I'm a longtime volunteer and senior at Freedom High School and the Academy of Engineering and Technology, and I am here today to introduce you to Bruce Potter, who has joined us for our STEM Champion interview series. Bruce Potter is the CEO and founder of Turngate, a company trying to simplify security investigations. Bruce has been in the cybersecurity industry for nearly 25 years with a focus on building better defenses and making cybersecurity more approachable. The STEM Champion interview series highlights a diverse STEM community and the journey STEM champions have taken, allowing children and young adults to see what is achievable. And during our conversation, Bruce will discuss his background and career, as well as the insights on the future of cybersecurity. Welcome, Bruce.
Thanks for having me.
So let's get started. Before we discuss your journey today, I would like to know more about your current role at Turngate. Can you describe your responsibilities as CEO of the company?
Yeah, so as CEO of a small tech startup, you end up getting to do a lot of things. You might think of a CEO as somebody who sits around and sits in a big fluffy chair and tells people what to do. But people in the company, I'm a part-time engineer and helping out with the development of the product, and part-time marketing and part-time sales, and do a lot of the back office work as well, making sure that the company itself functions, the financials make sense, and that kind of thing. So CEO of a small company is really a little bit of everything. And recognizing, one of my challenges is recognizing the things that I'm good at and making sure I keep doing that, and the things that I'm not good at, get help and get somebody else to do it for me. So to grow, that's my goal, is to get away from the things I don't do very well.
Awesome. And if I understand correctly, you're a founder of this company, right? So
Correct.
what inspired you to found this company, or what kind of idea that basically motivated you to start this company?
So it didn't even mean to really start the company. It was kind of an accident. I've been, excuse me, for the last 10 years or so, I've been serving as the Chief Information Security Officer at various companies. I'm basically overseeing all their cybersecurity program and making sure that we run as securely as possible and that kind of thing. And my last job, I worked with a great team. We built a really good program, but I reached a point where I was kind of frankly, it was going to get boring. When you're a CISO in a small company, if you do things right, things are actually pretty chill. And I reached the point where I was getting a little bored. So I was talking with some investors that I know, because they invest in a lot of small companies. I was like, hey, do you have any ideas on some of your portfolio companies, the companies that they invest in, if they need somebody with my skill set? And, just having a kind of casual conversation. And then to one of the investors, I mentioned, hey, I've got this idea about how to make security investigations simpler and make it more approachable to more people to be able to participate in security investigations. But I was like, I don't think anyone would ever be interested in investing in me. And from that conversation, it was a couple months, and they indeed invested in me. So we started the company, and it was kind of an accident, but I'm having a great time doing it, and it really is directly a pain point that I had as a CISO for over a decade, where very smart people still struggled with kind of the nuts and bolts of how to do a cybersecurity investigation, and trying to build a tool that makes it simpler, makes it faster, makes it easier for them to operate is something I always wanted, but I couldn't buy. So I figure now I'll build it and see if anybody else wants to buy it.
I would say that's a really great accident. Basically what you're doing is you're consolidating, making it simpler so that other people can you use the cybersecurity solution, or is that what you're essentially trying to do? Or is it more
Yeah,
about
one of the challenges that we have is as we've gone to all these cloud-based solutions like Google Workspace and Slack and things like that, they generate all these audit records, logs of the activity that the system and the people have done. And understanding the specifics of each log is really complicated. If I asked you, go find all the logins in Google Workspace, you could go through the logs and there'll be millions of records, and there might be 30 or 40 different things that actually are a login. But if you don't know what you're looking for, it's super painful and it takes forever. But anybody in IT and cybersecurity that kind of is familiar with computers knows what a login is, what a file read is, what a configuration change is. So what we try to do is allow you to come in and look at these logs and ask basic questions like, show me all the configuration changes. and quickly get answers to that rather than having to know the 100 different logs that you have to look for to figure out what is a configuration change on this platform, because lots of people know what a configuration change is. And so we figure if we simplify these logs, make it more approachable, use more kind of plain English terms, that allows people to ask the questions that they need in an investigation and eventually get down to the raw log, the thing that they need to actually, to dig into what's going on. But it's much simpler to find that raw log if you can ask kind of plain language questions to the system to get the answer.
And I can imagine simplicity would also save money because as people heard, time is money, less time you have to spend figuring out the system, the more you have time you have to actually build it and use it. So really admire what you're doing. And I want to go a little bit backwards into what inspired you to go into cybersecurity in the first place. Did you know from a young age, or was there a pivotal event or experience that helped you select your future career?
I grew up in rural New York, kind of used some computers when I was young, but didn't really have much exposure to it in any meaningful way. And then ended up going to college in Fairbanks, Alaska, and in the mid '90s, and got my first account on the internet, got my first real computer, and ended up being surrounded by people who were, very smart. They were developers. They were into the systems and the networks and that kind of thing. And I was able to kind of learn both at the university and then on the job. I worked network and system engineering at a small shop up there, and we pulled cable in coal mines and installed computers in all kinds of weird places in Central Alaska. And through that journey, I really started to get interested in the security aspect of it. In the mid '90s, it was still very much. I mean, I was in the North, but it was the Wild West, right? It was hard to find knowledge about how to secure a system. It was hard to find knowledge about how to investigate and track down attackers and that kind of thing. And that kind of big open space of learning was very interesting to me. And so I leaned in really hard into the cybersecurity space in the mid to late '90s and kind of did everything I could to get smart on it. And I knew once I did down that journey, I was like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I was pretty confident early on.
That's really cool. And going back to your college experience, what prompted you to go all the way to Alaska? And is there anything the younger generation should know about pursuing a degree and succeeding during their upcoming university or college career?
Um, you know, so I grew up really rural. I don't know. I kind of just wanted to get away. I had a full scholarship to Cornell, University of Rochester. I could have gone anywhere. I was a national merit scholar and had my pick of any university I wanted to go to. And I got a letter from University of Alaska Fairbanks. They're like, "Hey, come to Alaska." And I figured, what the heck? It was, I'm young. I got the opportunity. At the time, I thought I was going to get into physics, and they had a big geophysical institute up there, and I thought I'd go up and study physics and participate. And so I went up, and Alaska it's an amazing place. Like I had super unique experiences. It's where I met my wife. I DJ'd what I believe to be the farthest north Grateful Dead hour up in Fairbanks, Alaska, for a number of years, and that was a great time. And I really enjoyed it. I will say I did not graduate. I spent 4 years going to school, and I kind of goofed around. I took a lot of math, a lot of computer science, a lot of physics, and just ultimately ended up kind of entering the workforce. And especially for the line of work I was in then, getting network engineering and cybersecurity, there wasn't a lot that I was getting from the school directly. It was a lot more on the job. The world's different now, right? Like I think that IT and the computer and internet industries were really just starting to take off. And after 10 or 15 years, the university systems kind of figured that out. And obviously, you can go anywhere in the country now and get a degree in computer science and cybersecurity and all kinds of related fields and learn from really smart people and have access to really amazing equipment and programs. So I think, as you think about this career path today versus the career path that I took, there were maybe 5, 10 graduate level programs in cybersecurity in the mid '90s anywhere in the United States. And there were certainly no undergrad programs. So, the opportunity exists now to be able to just stomp on the accelerator, go to a school, learn for 4 years, pick up a ton of knowledge that took me a decade or more to pick up. While I appreciated the opportunity I had in Alaska, I also appreciated that time in this industry was very unique, and maybe don't follow in my footsteps if you're thinking about doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how much the field of computer science and cybersecurity has evolved over the years and how it's like nothing like it was back then. And speaking on your college, and I mean, just even through your professional career, what would you say was the biggest challenge you've dealt with throughout your college and or professional career?
You know, I think that one of the things I struggled with, especially kind of in the middle part of my career, was recognizing that I wasn't the smartest person in the room. It's the industry in the early '90s, late '90s, early 2000s was pretty small, and it was pretty easy to feel like you were a big shot, you knew everything, you could do anything, whatever. I ended up working at a company down in Virginia, in the Sterling area. They had very smart people there, and we did some amazing work. And the first 6 months I was there was just super humbling. I kept angry. I'm like, nobody knows what they're doing, and everyone thinks I'm wrong, and whatever. It turns out I was wrong. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just a young punk, and thought I knew everything. And once I allowed myself to recognize, like, I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I can learn from all these people around me, my career was able to advance much better. I was able to learn more appropriately. I was able to participate better in the workforce, and it was ultimately a great experience. There were certainly some days that I came home from work in despair of like, this is awful. I don't want to work here. I don't want to do this anymore. But I had to recognize a lot of it was hubris and ego. Check that at the door, and things have been a lot better since. I think technically, you know, there were so many resources to learn from and ways to grow your career. Like, I never really struggled with that, and I think I'm probably fortunate that I had access to environments where I could learn and grow technically. It was really that kind of interpersonal thing that I had to kind of get through my own ego. I think that was really my biggest struggle professionally in my career.
And would you say, I mean, yes, the ego thing, I would say like knowing sometimes when you know you're not the smartest person in the room, or you hear the saying that if you're in the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, how like learning from others helps you grow. And would you say that, do you think that was one of the most important things that you did that set you up for success in your career, or do you think it was possibly something else?
Yeah, I think that certainly helps. I also think that in general, what served me well is just continuing to be curious. I've done and been fortunate to do a lot of kind of foundational research for organizations like DARPA and IARPA, as well as for various companies around the country that I was able to, myself and the team that I was with, do some very unique cybersecurity projects and programs. And we never got sick of learning, right? And so I think that's the kind of thing that always pushing ourselves, always trying to go to the next step, always trying to figure out how to improve, not just ourselves, but often the industry. I mean, there are a lot of us, that people that I hung out with, and the kind of pseudo professional group that we made around the work that we were doing. We would present at conferences and write articles and books and that kind of thing. And most of that was just a labor of trying to get our information out in other people's hands to help them, recognizing we were in that place as well. Like, we learned from others, and we need to kind of pay that forward. So, you know, if you're writing technical books or articles, it's not a way to make a career. Like, it hardly paid anything, but we felt really passionate about trying to get that information out to folks. And so, you know, that was, I think, that constant curiosity, and then helping others, and just that keeping that cycle going has been really, I think, what's motivated me most in my career is that feedback, right? And if I ever get bored, I know I'm not at the right place, and I've certainly hit that point a few times in my career where I was like, I've done what I can here, and I felt good about it. Like, I felt like, hey, I came into this company, I made a difference, or I worked with this team, and I made a difference. But there's nowhere left for me to go. And some people are pretty happy to be chill and just do that, and that's cool for them. I was not. I'd be like, I'm out, and we'll go off and find something new and different to do.
So when you're talking about like the experiences you've learned and how much the cybersecurity field has changed, I just want to ask you what specifically looking forward now, what excites you about the future of cybersecurity and what actually concerns you?
So what excites me is that we've made a ton of progress, right? And as a concrete example, if you look back 10 years at the state of cybersecurity in any company in the country, there was this constant churn of like bad things happening on the workstations and laptops and that kind of thing, right? There's viruses and weird malware and worms and all this kind of thing. And now we've got a whole industry that's built a bunch of defenses around it. What was antivirus is now endpoint defense and response, and a whole bunch of other suite of tooling and that kind of thing. And when you talk to people in even moderate sized companies, like how often do you have a virus or malware or something that runs on your endpoint on a laptop or on a workstation or something? The answer is oftentimes, well, none, right? We've gone a year, 2 years, 3 years without having anything go wrong on our workstations. And so, I mean, that was a problem, like bread and butter problem of the industry in, 2000, 2005, 2010. And we've kind of solved it. It's not that it's perfect, and it's not like attackers don't get in and there's not opportunity, but it's not like it was. And I think that as we move to the cloud, we're going through that same arc where, some of the early cloud stuff was really kind of rickety and it was hard to configure and do right. But, the vendors, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, as well as all the supporting cast of cybersecurity companies continue to innovate, continue to push the ball forward and make progress. And it's not that we're perfect by any stretch right now, and it's not that it's easy. It's still a ton of work, but there are opportunity to create systems that are defensible and secure, and you can use and monitor and grow and really meet the needs of a business or an organization without having to spend billions of dollars doing it. And that's pretty satisfying, right? I think I was kind of doom and gloom for a while in my career, but I look now and I'm like, we're doing pretty well. I think the challenge that the stakes then go up, right? The harder it is to break in, the more the attackers want to get something out of their efforts. And so the rise of ransomware and the how much the ransomware organizations will harm their victims has gone from kind of casually like, I'm going to encrypt some workstations and get a few $1,000s to I'm going to shut down a national pharmaceutical organization for weeks. People can't get insulin, they can't get the drugs they need, all this kind of stuff, and pay us 14, $20 million and we'll get out of your way. That's high stakes games. And that's a big shift. And not only technically does that cause unique problems, because now you have a well-resourced adversary who will spend a lot of time and money, because if I can make $14 million breaking into a place, I'll spend a few thousand hours trying to figure out how to do it, right? Like it's a good return on investment for labor, but also puts people in the company in harm's way, especially leadership, cybersecurity executives, bear the responsibility to protect these organizations. And it's becoming difficult to convince people to take on that responsibility. So as the stakes go up, some people don't want to participate in the industry anymore because they're like, it's too dangerous. There's too much going on. So, it's clearly a balancing act between us improving and the attackers improving as well. I think that I need to get better, and ransomware, as an example, will become less of an issue in 5 or 10 years. But I think in the interim, there are going to be some really bad days in some companies that they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of I think it was the Southeastern pipeline shutdown and how that caused massive chaos across the country. And it's just like always trying to get ahead of what the new threat is.
Yeah, it's kind of never ending, and every time you think you got them figured out, they change tactics. I mean, attackers are human too, and we're smart group of folks, both on the attack and on the defensive side. And as the defenders think they've got things figured out, attackers will figure things out too. But on balance, I think we're a more mature industry, more mature products, more mature processes. I think we've got the upper hand, at least strategically, which is nice.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. And I want to end off with our last question. If you have any other advice for younger generations regarding pursuing their passions in general.
Yeah, it's funny. I get asked through my career, like, how'd you get engaged? And, I tell stories and whatever. And you've heard some of them today, but I think ultimately the thing that was successful to me is I just never stopped. It never dawned on me to not do whatever I decided to do. And even my wife actually has this kind of running joke that I'll come into the room and say, so I have an idea, and invariably it's some crazy thing. And she supported me, and I've supported her when she said the same thing. And we go off and we just go do the thing that we had dreamt up. And every time that we've had those kind of ideas, like there were rocky parts and whatever, but ultimately good things happen. And some of the ideas have been small and some of the ideas have been big, but it never occurred to us to not do it. We were always just willing to like, hey, let's try this out and see how it goes. Like, and packed up my bags, moved to Alaska. Okay, cool, let's see how it goes, and got into cybersecurity and see how it goes. And so I think, as you're going down whatever career path you take, just don't be afraid to just keep moving forward and keep doing it. I mean, the Nike, as I've reflected on the Nike motto of just do it, which seemed trite in the 80s or whatever they came up with it. I realized over the years, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty accurate, decent words to live your life by. Just get up and do it. Tons of resources. There's support people around you. There's all kinds of opportunity. And I recognize that like everybody comes from a different background and everybody struggles with different things. There are organizations out there like Children's Science Center, Year Up, and other organizations designed to help people from all walks of life, all kinds of backgrounds, to be able to get access to just do it. Look around, talk to people, and just find your path forward, but just never stop moving forward.
Yeah, that was a really inspiring message. Just do it. I mean, I didn't really think too deeply into this, or a lot of people don't really when they think of Nike, but that's actually like a really powerful motto and like marketing campaign to go by. And thank you for your time today. This was a very insightful conversation, and it was very inspiring. And I know it will be for all who are watching. So I just want to say one last thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me. It was great.